Yes.
Good evening, everyone. On behalf of FitKit and Project Mumbai, we welcome everyone to ICIM. This is the first of a series of fantastic, as we promise, conversations with people who are living a very interesting and yet important life. Some of us are fairly safe in our homes, but these are people who are leading from the front, um, feeling the strain, ensuring that the strain is taken over by them so that we live in comfort. But the strain is not just medical strain is not just law and order strain is emotional strain as well. And that's something that we've always believed that whatever happens to the pandemic, and there are so many speculations which keep happening, we do realize that things may someday, somewhere come back to normal, but the lasting impact will be on our emotional well being. And that is something we need to be ready for. But are we ready for that? And we have the first and the debut conversationalist here with us, Brijesh Singh, Inspector General of Police of Maharashtra, heading administration, looking at basically what the men in uniform really want. And in a situation like this, I'm sure the needs are plenty, and needs just not law and order related, not just work related, going beyond. Brijesh Singh, thank you very much for joining us this day on a very special conversation. Thank you for your time as well.
Thanks, Shishir. And I would also like to put on record the contributions you are doing from Project Mumbai towards Maharashtra Police. We have been receiving, masks, sanitizers, and other things, face shields, which we use regularly. And we really have a large consumption. And I'm very thankful to you that on a single phone call, you have been working day and night to make all this available to us. So it's actually your contribution to the people of the state. I'm really thankful for that.
Always a pleasure and privilege to work with you all. Mr. Singh, we were discussing with various people about everybody having a COVID story and how the circle seems to be getting narrow and narrow of experience, and it can't get closer now. You've just about recovered from the virus itself. You just, I guess, resumed work maybe 24 hours ago. So it's not been easy, I'm sure, but I'd rather hear it from you. What has the experience been? Are you out of it stronger physically and mentally, or how does the situation now for you?
To sum it up, it saps you out. It saps you out. It leaves your strength to half. So depends on how severe it was and how it was treated. See, it's so that 80% people are going to remain almost asymptomatic, but those 20% people who develop any lung symptoms and go through all the serious medicines, which end in Veer, Favipiravir, Remdesivir. So that Shurveer is going to get definitely hit, and it's a long process. I think COVID is pretty complex. It's coagulating the blood. It's hitting the oxygen transport system. It is causing autoimmune disorders. It's affecting the lungs. So on and so forth. It's yet to be understood fully. And as it happens with newer viruses, they are complex. Their modes are less understood, and as such, there are no medicines for viral diseases. And until a vaccine comes through, I think we all will have stories to tell. Uh, in terms of its virility, you're saying that the circle is getting narrower. Yes. Whenever I got tested, so since we had, we are frontline people, and we have staff which has to perforce travel and use public transport and other things, we're always careful about getting tested again and again. And whenever I tested, I found almost 50% people, in that small sample size, positive. And it used to be the same cycle. Every 15 days, you test 5, 6 people, and you find that 2 or 3 are positive. Till finally it came to me and my family, and when we were in that 50%. Don't let it get to you. It saps you down. Don't let it get to you. So I understand that there's a fatigue today, and people are thinking that, okay, it's nothing. It should happen to me once, and then everything would be over. But don't let it get to you. It's not really good. So if you have braved it till now, I think there's a good chance that you would not get it, because the hardest of period you have survived. Don't let your guards down. Be very careful. Be wash, sanitize, wear masks, maintain social distancing. You go out today, it's almost like a Diwali holiday. Everybody's out there on the street touching each other. I think this fatigue is setting in, and it's not a good thing. Shishir.
Mr. Singh, I'll also bring in into the conversation my colleague Malvika. Malvika, if you can join in. And very quickly,
Yes.
one more quick question I'd like to ask you. To understand, when you said don't let it get to you, are you saying that don't let the virus get to you, or don't let the stress get to you? Which of these two were you referring to?
I think it's a feedback cycle. Probably if you're stressed more, your immunity would go down, and you would be more vulnerable to the virus. And as it happens with all frontline workers, and you've headed press for a very long time. You know that even press people have been exposed very, very badly to the COVID virus, and it's related. So COVID just not has only physiological effects; it also has deep psychological impacts, and probably that is what we'll be talking about. Yeah,
And that's something which Malvika has, I'm sure, a host of thoughts and questions to you about the psychological effects that it has. Malvika?
Yes, thank you so much, Ashir sir. Thank you so much, Mr. Singh, for joining us here. We've also collected questions from a lot of volunteers, people who follow us on social media. So thank you so much for being here with all of us. One of the first questions that we've got is, what does the Inspector General's role entail?
No, so there are Inspector General is a rank, and there are various branches which people look after. Um, I look after administration. Similarly, there are various, other people who would be looking after different functions. Like for the city people, Joint Commissioner would be a familiar rank. So the Joint Commissioner of Police in Mumbai City is Inspector General of Police rank. So there's a whole system of police hierarchy where you if you are an IPS officer, you start from an assistant SP and end up as a Director General of Police. So it's just one step in the ladder.
Okay, so that's very humbly you're putting it, but thank you. We also know that you've served the police force for 25 years. We definitely want to ask some Corona pandemic specific questions, but before we reach there, we wanted to understand, what are the challenges of the police force? You've been there for so many years. Can you help us understand what are the different kind of stressors that you all deal with on a day-to-day basis?
You see almost anything that gets out of hand, be it a flood, be it a fire, be it a theft, be it two people fighting or disagreeing, be it something happening on social media. Whenever it crosses the boundaries of crime, whenever it becomes a crime or has the potentiality of crime, then police has to deal with it. So police has to prevent, detect, investigate, bring the perpetrators to book. So there are various laws under which this constitutional framework under which police operates. Police is a state subject, so it's basically run by the states. So states have police forces, like Madhya Pradesh has its own force, Maharashtra has its own, Rajasthan has its own, and the state police is headed by a Director General of Police, and the districts are headed generally by a superintendent of police, or if there's a commissionerate, then the commissioner of police. Under them, then there are various ranks, and finally police stations. So in police stations, you register crimes, get it investigated. Similarly, they look after traffic control. Normally, there's a traffic branch also. A host of other duties, right from installation protection to protection of VIPs to prevention and detection of crime, intelligence. So there's a host of things which police do, right from dealing with domestic violence to serious forms of terrorism. Now, ironically, I see that the image of police in this country has been sullied by a secondary reference. So if I've gone to meetings where I've said that, okay, who feels police is not good? Or, so many people say that police is not good. And when I ask them, how many of you have actually had contact with police? Have you been to a police station? It's very few. See, every day, some 1,000 FIRs are registered, they're investigated, culprits are arrested, people get their stolen property back or get their missing children back. So in 2014, I was heading this portfolio of protection on women and children. That year, we brought home 10,000 missing children. You won't know about it,
Wonderful.
right? You won't know about
Absolutely.
it.
Yes.
So 10,000 missing children. Similarly, every year, thousands of missing children are traced by police and brought back to their parents. Now, these good things are not known because you all generally have a secondary understanding of police from newspapers or from films where, you know, a particular aspect is shown. And I feel that uh, negativity has more power. So if you won't hear of the thousands of cases which are solved, but one bad case and everybody would get a bad name. But so it be. It's the same with police forces all across the world. But we also have a colonial legacy where sort of the British Empire used the police to suppress its own people, and
Yes.
and that is why with the colonial legacy, with similar kind of laws and setup, we could never fully, you know, throw off the colonial yoke. But times are changing. We are modernizing. We have senior
Absolutely.
senior police leadership, which is very open to you know, public opinion, and they are fairly open to meeting people, understanding their difficulties, proactively helping them. Similarly, the state government ensures that police has enough wherewithal, vehicles, technology,
Yes.
wireless sets, and all kinds of, you know, other logistical arrangements where they are enabled enough to help people. But see, we are a large and complex country, and we have the kind of population we have. Once I was talking to a officer of European police 14, 15 years back. I used to be South Bombay DCP. So they were talking about crime and criminality, and my office used to be just outside VT station, CST. So, you know that CST and Churchgate together, the Bombay suburban trains, they carry around 6 million people every day.
Yes.
Right. So while talking to him, I said, I've heard your theories. What is the population of your country? I said that much
Absolutely,
high
sir.
times that population goes through
Absolutely.
trains here. So the
So true.
problems that we face are very complex. Somehow it seems that the good doesn't reach out to people. I really urge upon you to, you know, generally go and visit the police station. Go and have a
Yeah.
chit chat with your local
Absolutely.
police inspector. He'll be also happy. Go and have a cup of tea. Invite them over for a cup of tea at your home, because they are there for your protection and they are working. It's not any other department which is closing down on Saturdays and Sundays. They are working there 24/7, and they are there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's a tough job, but
It is so, yeah.
at the end of the day, it's very fulfilling.
Yeah. And so we'll get to that also. We want to, so what you are saying is, and I think some of us had this understanding, but I think you put it out really well because you gave us a whole picture of so many things that you all do, and with respect to also the population, which is a very unique challenge of this country. But so COVID specific, as it is, being in the police force is a stressful job. Now in the last 9 months, y'all did not have the privilege of staying at home like most of us did. So, what unique challenges have come upon the police force during Corona, and how and what are you all doing to kind of take care of yourselves and to mitigate some of these effects?
The senior police leadership took some excellent steps, like they ensured that anybody who's sick is properly taken care of. So the medical facilities for police were properly arranged. Even today, everybody who's sick is tracked by senior officers. We check what kind of specialized medical treatment they need, whether they are on oxygen, whether they are on ventilator. Similarly, the government of Maharashtra, you know, it's very unfortunate that people die, but Maharashtra government has been giving a 50 lakh ex gratia payment to the next of kin of those who die. And a lot of
Right, right.
policemen have actually, during the course of COVID, lost their lives. The senior leadership and government also understood that senior citizens or older policemen are more prone to it. So they issued orders for you know, people who are beyond a particular age not to join duties, and they kept them at home for a very long time. But still, having said that, I think a lot of our colleagues got exposed to, even senior officers got exposed
Yes.
to COVID, disproportionately higher than the population because they were out there performing duties. You know, even if it is, let's say, lockdown, then police has to impose it. Even if it's a, you know, any kind of measure which is related to COVID, it be it travel restrictions, be it sealing an area or whatever, which is basically essential to stop the spread of disease, then police had to do it. So a lot of it meant actually exposure, being on the road, being on the job. And this led to a very high rate of infection. And there are stats to prove that there was a very, very high rate of infection amongst policemen. And see, if you're doing already a very stressful job, then the effects of such a disease are going to be severe on you. So we've borne the brunt of COVID uh, by clashing with it head on. But so it be, because that was a job. You face various kinds of challenges which are a threat to society. It can be, someday it can be fake news, someday it can be a terrorist
Yeah.
attack, someday it can be a disaster, someday it can be rains, someday it can be a fire, someday it can be a disease. So
Absolutely.
it's new for us. Um, there is a lot of suffering, but I think the forces are doing well.
So one question that has come up a lot from people on social media is, how do you boost your own morale and also those of the ones that you're working with, especially in the Corona time?
In an organized way, it is difficult, but see, one has to understand that Corona has changed everything. So whatever you could do, you could take a walk, or you could go out, you could meet friends, you could eat your favorite thing, you could go for a movie. Everything has changed. Especially during the lockdowns, you did not have any access to any normal modes of commute, transportation, enjoyment, everything. And for the frontline workers, this meant that, with the stress that they may have exposure, especially policemen live in, these police lines, which are small areas
Yes.
with parents who are susceptible, have comorbidities. So imagine that anxiety of that policeman, that he's going out every day and coming back and thinking that, what if I infect my parents, right? And we have lost a lot
Absolutely.
of policemen and their family members to COVID. So this stress and anxiety has had its toll. Um, Apart from that, if you are already doing a very stressful job outside, you come home, you are fearful of infection. Like some of the constables known to me, when they got COVID symptoms, I asked them to isolate. They said, "Where would I isolate, sir?
Yeah, absolutely.
A small house," which is a common problem with a lot of people in Mumbai, because living spaces are small. But it compounds here because, all policemen are living, let's say, in a police building. Then the chances of spread of infection are very, very high. Um, but here it's important that, since there are, all normal modes have been destroyed, then one has to understand signs of depression and anxiety. Um, One has to watch one's eating and sleep patterns, because unknown to us, we either overeat or don't eat during stress. Our sleep patterns due to anxiety are getting disturbed. And sleep is very essential to health. So if you're stressed, if you're not sleeping, then it's compounding and sort of a feedback mechanism, which is lowering your immunity. And if your immunity is lowered, then again, you're going to get exposed. So there's a chance that
Absolutely.
you would actually get COVID. So similarly, exercise, that since it's a job which involves a lot of physical work, in the initial many months of COVID, I came to an exercise routine at home. So there's
Wonderful.
nice 30-day body weight exercise chart which I downloaded, and I challenged people on Twitter, and many people joined, and we did this 3 or 4 times. I could repeat that, uh, a continuous 30-day exercise
Like a
chart.
cycle. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is like a cycle. So every day there used to be new exercise in that, and so you have to find out newer ways to be healthy, to eat healthy, to sleep properly. Um, and I also realized that at this time, relationships change because you are in a confined space. There's a friend of mine who's a psychologist. He said that the larger pandemic that everybody is ignoring is the mental health pandemic, that there is
Absolutely.
a serious wave of anxiety and depression across the
Yeah.
world. There have been some serious studies regarding this, which are talking of the mental health impacts of the pandemic. See, mental health is still a taboo in our country. We do not,
Absolutely.
everywhere almost, but that we do not talk about mental health, or do not want to go to a counselor or psychologist. We think that, what would people think? Are we mad or something like that? Or people do not
Yes.
want to take medicines for psychological distress and disorder. But this needs to change. It is something like a fever or a cold. You need to take medicine, and
Absolutely.
wherever it is essential, because it is going to have other effects. The quality of life would degrade. If you are under chronic stress or depression, the quality of life would degrade. And especially if you're in a more stressful kind of job or environment, then it would affect your functionality on job also.
Yes.
It would deteriorate your performance. So, so you have to see what your trigger points are, how you're performing, are you eating properly, are you sleeping properly? Because otherwise you would be going down. You are in a stressful
Absolutely.
job, you come home, you are concerned, your normal modes of communication and entertainment are not there. Even during the lockdown, your food choices are limited. So it ultimately you have to understand this and develop your own method, develop your own routine to
Yes.
enjoy things, to listen to music, to talk to friends, right? To develop an exercise
So,
routine.
in fact, yeah, thank you for bringing this up because a lot of questions have also come from people. They want to understand what do you do for your mental health. So, like you've said, you've tried to follow a exercise routine, sleeping and eating. Anything else that you've done and uniquely that you could not do probably before, and now because of the current circumstances, you are doing more to cope?
I cooked a lot. I,
Wonderful. Okay.
I cooked a lot, so
Interesting. Yes.
I found it very therapeutic. Baked a lot of bread,
Mm-hmm.
and see, yeast is a live medium. If you are baking breads, a 5 minutes delay in the bread would totally change the texture. So it's very interesting. And I used to be an engineer, and as an engineer, I apply my engineering to baking breads, and it's a wonderful science. It was very therapeutic, very enjoyable, and fresh breads are very different. So it worked for me. not that it
Wonderful.
not that it could prevent me getting COVID, but it at least kept me and others happy for months
Absolutely.
during the lockdown times. So that was
Absolutely.
my method. Yeah.
But that's wonderful and also fresh to hear from like a male saying this because um, so many gender stereotypes, even with regards to mental health, right? Like men should not be crying, men should not be talking about their feelings. And here we have somebody of your stature who's saying, but you know what, I got into cooking and that was a skill that actually helped me cope. Uh, there may be so many of us watching today. So what is your message to especially people regarding men's mental health?
Especially in police, we grow up to this. I shouldn't use the word toxic, but we sort of grow up to some kind of masculinity, uh, which I don't think is exactly essential. But do you need certain skills when you are facing a hostile crowd? But see, all of your life and every moment of your life, you're not against a hostile crowd, right? So you do not
Absolutely.
need to incorporate those facets into your personality in a way which changes that it changes you. So while your job culture, your subculture may be eulogizing certain traits, it's not essential that you become that person, because parades and regimentation and uniform, it does give you some kind of a hard exterior, but you should be a thinking person, and you should understand that if there is a functionality which is essential for the job, then it should be limited to that job. It's not there that you're going to do a parade at home,
Yes. Absolutely.
or going to fire at
Absolutely.
home. So you have to understand that apart from what is expected of you, due to a subculture, you are your own person in your own context. And men definitely have these thoughts and barriers around opening up, around around seeking help, and
Yes.
which complicates
Absolutely.
things further, um, so then people get into substance abuse. Somebody starts eating tobacco, somebody starts eating gutka, canny, starts smoking, somebody starts drinking, substance abuse, and any other kind of compulsive behaviors which are problematic in the long run, which may be temporarily helping you cope, but these are
Hmm.
maladaptive. If you're not going to
Absolutely.
solve it, you're going to get into maladaptive behaviors, which would be deleterious in the long run. I feel that rather than looking at gender stereotypes, we should do what is essential. If you really feel that you need help, you should go and ask for help. You feel that I'm stressed, I'm depressed, you should go and ask for help. And
Absolutely.
there are enough organizational, institutional, and otherwise familial resources. Everybody has some friend on whose shoulder you
Hmm.
can cry. So I think this seeking help is something where we should break barriers, especially in these COVID times, um,
Yes.
and bond with people so that at least our mental health remains intact.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that answer. Mr. Singh, also, you brought this point out that, we are a certain kind of persona when we are on the job, but we can't be that 24/7 and at home. Uh, we wanted to understand from you, what role does the family play in the lives of a police officer? And also, how do you all manage a work-life balance?
I think that is the single most important and most difficult question to solve in police. More so at the ranks of constables, because every festival which you are enjoying with your people,
Yes.
the policeman is out there on the road till late. Because, there are stupid people in society, and some idiot may cause some problem which may lead to loss of life and property, cause a long standing law and order problem, and things like that. So just to prevent that and to take care of that, police has to be, ever ready. And this causes, initially families expect that you should be there, and they would request you, they would fight with you, they would cajole you. But after a time, sort of, they they draw this blank, they know that you're not going to be there, and they adjust to it. Same like any uniform service, army people, they stay out, defending the
Yeah.
country. And it's a larger role which families play, which is not appreciated, I think. The role of families of frontline workers everywhere. See, when I was admitted, I was looking at these doctors and nurses, and they used to come, and I used to tell them that you are entering a COVID positive uh, patient's chamber, knowing very well that somebody is positive. So you're really very brave, right? That tomorrow
Absolutely.
you would be the one who would be in oxygen.
Yes.
Similarly, I've seen that when there are riots, when there are situations, I've seen that policemen have to enter those places. Um, and also look at the fear and uncertainty which is there in a policeman's family's mind, that okay, father has gone out, and you never know whether he's actually going to come out hale and hearty.
Yeah.
So and it's also unappreciated job wherein you are judged very harshly by society, by press, by law, by your own family and friends. Uh, because if let's say an offense is committed and the same offense is committed by a policeman, you would eventually see that he gets a harsher punishment.
Mm.
So, so that way, society is also unforgiving to policemen, and I understand that there are a lot of imperfections and a scope for improvement. But so it be, so is society, right? That we come from the same stock that you are, and we come from similar families that you are. And nobody comes from somewhere outside of drops from the sky. It's the same society which gives birth to the policeman and to the criminal and to the common man.
Yes.
So you have to somewhere understand what role one plays, and especially families here, they suffer a lot.
Yeah.
Police families, they suffer a lot, and I think there is a lack of understanding about the role they play and the sacrifices they make.
Yes, absolutely. I think so. When we're talking about the police force, we understand that as a force, you all have to be resilient. Maybe there is no choice. But what you've brought out in this conversation is also the resilience of the family members, as well as their mental health challenges, which when you spoke about their uncertainty and anxiety, and the fact that they may have to go on with any festival or any family function probably alone because their partner is serving. Absolutely. um, Another question that we've got is, what is the role of peers in your lives? Do you all get time to spend time with friends? A lot of us commoners may say, let's meet up, let's go for a movie, do this, do that. Do you all have that kind of space to just, relax and be with friends?
There are difficulties and limitations there. That the nature of your job is such that if you associate with somebody, um, then there are limitations on what you can do and what you cannot do. See, our society is different. I've gone to US, and I find that their policemen in uniform go into bars and sit and drink, right? Which is, here, I think most of the population drinks, but if they see a policeman drinking, they would make such a hullabaloo about it. Uh,
Absolutely.
yeah,
The
so
judgment is very different. Absolutely.
yeah, it's double standards. So socializing also has its limitations in that sense. First of all, timings are very uncertain, in the
Yeah.
sense that at the cutting edge, people at least once a week they have to do a night duty, or their working hours are uncertain. So that is why social relations and spending time with peers and friends becomes difficult. And I think it also has effects on making you a closed person, because if you're more connected to society,
Hmm. Hmm.
you won't
Hmm.
be a closed person.
Yeah.
But you're only within a small peer group or only interacting with people in your job, then somewhere your ideas and ideals and your whole worldview would get narrowed down. So it just does happen. It's slightly difficult to socialize when you are in a uniform job.
Yeah. Uh, so, so we've spoken so much about the challenges of the job. But I remember in the first question you said, but it's worth it. There is something that you get out of this. In fact, a lot of people don't talk about this, but the positive effects of, or the positive impact that the police force has on all of you. Why is there so much of commitment? Why is there so much of a drive to serve the police force?
Uh, One is the training, organizational subculture, and then the feedback of joy you get when you solve people's problems. See, other departments, when they work, somebody would be collecting taxes, somebody would be running civic amenities for you, but here you meet somebody who is in distress. Somebody has lost something, somebody has lost a child, something has happened, and it's very personal here. And I feel that solving that personal distress, um, it it involves you personally. Like I've seen cases which were undetected, and you would think in nights about them. You know, you would feel that distress, that you really need to give justice to this person. So that sense of justice that drives you, and that sense of satisfaction when you are able to help somebody, is something which retains you here and keeps you committed. So I feel that that's a very, very important factor. And the sense of loyalty to your society, to your country, mm, and
Hmm.
to your family as a whole.
Thank you so much. So many of us are watching, especially the youth. Like you said earlier, also a lot of us are now on the streets. Also, things have opened up, so people are all over the place now. It's not so much isolated anymore. Like before, maybe 6 months earlier, the streets were emptier, but now all of us are traveling, we're moving around. What advice would you give, especially the youth, with respect to Corona for the next 5 to 6 months? How are we supposed to be looking at this situation?
So interestingly, ultimately you'll have to run economies, you'll have to, run societies. You won't be able to, uh, you know, totally continue with lockdowns, because how would humanity function? But when you're doing this, I think it is very, very important to be careful of yourselves and your families, because see, you may be careless, you may feel that okay, I'm young, if COVID attacks me, I'm going to be asymptomatic. But there may be somebody who's in 60s and 70s at your home. You may inadvertently expose them, and for them it may be a gun pointed to the head. So be responsible. And
Yes.
everywhere, if you look around, government has put up hoardings telling exactly what to do, right from social distancing to wearing masks and sanitizing. Only small, these three things, if you do, then you can prevent this chain of infection. And so it's a common responsibility. It's a shared responsibility between governments and between people and between police forces to stop and minimize this flow of infection, this virality, as far as possible. And we have to behave responsibly. I understand that there's a lot of fatigue today, that we are just sick
Mm,
of this thing, that you just want to
yeah.
go out and breathe and talk to people and think that, and or probably at least pretend that things are normal, but they are not. They are not. And believe me, having passed through,
Yes.
12, 13 days in hospital is not easy. Thankfully, at least being a government servant, I have the government taking care of my medical expenses. But to a private person, you may, depending upon how serious it is, you may end up with lakhs of rupees in medical bills, which would be difficult to pay in these times where there are retrenchments going on. So take this seriously. It's not just about
Absolutely.
you, it's about other
Yeah.
people. Be responsible
Yes.
and follow simple measures. Simple measures. When you go home, keep discard all your clothes aside, take a bath, sanitize properly, and then meet people. So prevent exposure, especially to those who are vulnerable. And if you feel symptoms, go and get tested. Central government has this app called Arogya Setu. It's a wonderful app, and
Yes.
crores of people are using it. The more people use it, the more useful it would be, because it would notify you of possible exposures. Uh, Thankfully, by now the line of treatment is well understood, and
Hmm.
mortality rates are coming down. But it doesn't seem to me that either a full-fledged vaccine or a cure would be in sight within months. Because even if you have a vaccine, to make a billion vaccines and give it to everybody would involve huge logistics.
Yes.
So till then, till you have a cure or a vaccine, or it automatically vanishes like magic, you have to be careful. And believe me, by personal experience, this is bad.
Yeah.
As bad, it depends on how it affects you. It can sap you out, and you'll be knocked out of your job for a long time. And since you have to isolate yourself, when you're symptomatic and even after that, so it takes away a big chunk of life. It takes away all the interaction, um, all the warmth that you get from people. It takes away everything. So it's not a simple disease. You can
Absolutely.
break a leg and put a bandage, but this is different. This is
Yes.
different. It
I
breaks.
think so. Like you explained, I think the isolation bit
Yes.
really gets to us mentally, and that's why you quoted even the WHO saying that it is the next pandemic, which is mental health issues will be the next
Indeed.
pandemic.
Indeed.
So one of the questions we've got from uh, one of the audience members is many elderly or comorbid policemen have been asked to stay at home for safety reasons. So does that add more work pressure to the existing lot in the police force, and how do you all manage them?
Indeed, I understand that it's a question of life and death. That uh, I think the government and police leaders, in their wisdom, understood that the same kind of exposure for a younger person is different, and the same kind of exposure for somebody above 55 can be a real matter of life and death. If you look at the mortality charts, you find that people above 55 are highly prone,
Yeah.
especially those with comorbidities are highly prone. So when you know that the rates of exposure are very high, then it's like sending somebody to gallows. So at the relevant time, appropriate decisions are being taken, taking into account what is the need and what is the risk. Uh, it did create a lot of work pressure on the others, but
Hmm.
these are the times. Testing times are there, and when the going gets tough, the tough get going.
Absolutely, and I think you all are a prime example of that. If I know this is just putting you on the spot, but if you were to give a message to all of us as to how we need to view or support the police force better, what would you tell us?
But just be empathetic towards police. Try and understand
Hmm.
that what is said about them may not be true. You may develop a first-hand experience by actually going to a police station, visiting them, trying to help the police, rather than developing secondary prejudices from third third-rate sources, I should say. So, because when you personally experience going to police, you would find that there's a lot of technology which has been infused now. People are being trained better, uh, and see, we are a developing country still. We have crunch of resources, so it's not, there's no magic stick which or wand which one is going to put on a police station and convert it into a five-star hotel. And,
Yes.
and then you would compare that, oh, in Japan, the police stations are like this. Okay, Japan, the trains are very different, people are very different, cars are very different.
Absolutely.
Everything is very different. Only one thing cannot change. So be empathetic,
Yes.
try to understand their situation, see if you can help, because ultimately you'll be helping yourself. Police is for you. Police is a service.
Yes.
It is dedicated totally to you, right? Totally to you, to nothing else. So when there's a resource for you, see to it that that resource is utilized well. Uh, there has been a demand for police reforms. Ironically, that demand has come from police and not from people. So it's people who should help police to reform to a modern police force, which helps and serves people in a much better manner.
Another question, Mr. Singh, that's come from somebody on social media is, what are your specific self-care practices that you do even prior to Corona? What are some of the things that you do for your mental health?
Uh, One link between exercise and mental health is something which people do not understand. In fact, exercise is a great stress buster, and it really helps. Any form of exercise, whatever you do, I think find out 1 hour to exercise, and it would really keep you in good mental health. Apart from
Yes.
that, to talk to friends and family, to peers, maintaining these, good vibes, social connections, is
Yes.
very, very essential to mental health, because human beings are essentially network people. By networking, I don't mean social networking. In fact, it's the anathema of it. Social networking is actually distancing you. You sit on a table
Yes.
and 5 people are out there on the mobiles. Yeah. Uh,
Yeah.
One day before the pandemic, I have 2 daughters, and the younger one was sitting with a bunch of her friends on the bed, and they all were chatting with each other on the mobile phone. So,
Yes.
so I asked them, "What are you doing?" They said, "We are chilling together." I said, "Together? It doesn't seem. We are on our mobiles." I said, "Yes, I see that." So
Yes.
that is the problem today, that we feel we are
Absolutely.
more connected, but actually we are more distant. So
Yeah.
take time off from social media, and take time off from your mobiles. Really talk
Yeah.
to real people. Don't talk
Yeah.
to text on a screen, or you don't even know who is there on the other side. So whether that person is real or not. So talk to real people, try to help people, try to understand their problems, just converse with them. In fact, as we were earlier talking about stereotypes and
Yeah.
the inability to take help. So if you talk to people, you would be able to share your problems. They would be able to share if they had similar problems and tell you how to solve them. At least they would tell you, they would give you hope. They would tell you methods to cope, so on and so forth. So I feel that connecting to people with friends and family is very essential. Maintaining a good exercise routine, eating healthy
Yeah.
is
Yes.
very essential.
Yes.
Especially eating healthy, I think, is something which we neglect. This is so I find people who go into cycles of extreme kind of diet, and
Hmm.
within 6 months, since they what it began with was lack of discipline, and they impose upon us themselves a small period of discipline, then they come back to normal, and then their bodies jump to some different shape and size. So somewhere a sense of discipline in everything, in eating, a sense of discipline in moderation,
Yeah.
in eating, sleeping, drinking, whatever you do,
Yeah.
a schedule, a routine is
Hmm.
important, and that is what
I
should.
think, yeah, yeah. I think like what you're, I think a flexible routine, if one can achieve that, especially
Yes.
during these times, can
Yes.
help.
Yeah. So if you
Absolutely.
have, let's say, if you're exercising, it's not essential that you exercise only 8 to 9 or whatever. During the day, keep 60 minutes.
Yes.
Whatever time you get, but use that 60 minutes.
Yes. So someone said that you're focusing on healthy routines, so healthy food. So do you have cheat foods and cheat meals?
No,
And
I
is that okay to have cheat meals?
depends. It's like this, that what you want to do ultimately, right? Input is equal to output. So
Yeah.
yeah. So if you want to add anything minus to a 10, you can do it. As much as you add, it
Wonderfully
would
said.
be deducted.
Wonderfully
So take that
said.
choice, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So one last question. I know we've kept you really busy and we've just kept asking you question after question. One last one, if you can take from the audience, how can people help the police? I think you've already kind of answered this in terms of what is the message you would like to give us. But this person is asking specifically how we can help the police, both directly and indirectly.
So indirectly, if you want to help, you can report many kind of suspicious activities like crime or any kind of you know uh, sort of terrorist radicalization or anything that you see. If you want to report anonymously, you can report anonymously. When police come to investigate crimes, they need independent, respectable witnesses. Yeah, it's called panchnama, where you need punch. So be a punch, be a witness. You will be called to court later
Yes.
on, but you're helping the police. This is a real help that you can give to police, and you would be able to see investigation happening, and you would also be contributing to the impartiality of investigation,
Yes.
right? Don't be a problem yourselves. Don't park at wrong places. Don't drive your vehicles in a rash manner. Don't drink and drive. Just be a good citizen. You'll be helping police.
Wonderful.
So
I think that's beautifully said.
if you
Yeah.
just be a good citizen, you will be giving some rest to the policemen, some respite to the families.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mr. Singh, for being with us today. I think what this conversation will help all of us uh, feel and stay with is, like you said, the empathy that the police deserves from us. I think this conversation will be one step in that direction. Thank you for helping us empathize with your and your families, and thank you for fighting for the citizens of the state. Because of you, I think most of us can have a very restful night and a restful day, because we know that there are frontline workers like you who are trying to fight COVID and trying to help all of us. I think with this, is the if anything, if there's anything that you want to convey to us.
Thank you so much. Be happy, stay safe.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you everybody for joining, and we will see you all next Thursday for another wonderful conversation with another frontline warrior. Thank you.
Thanks, Malvika.